Not on. Let's get to business. A lot to do. The weather sucks. I don't know why we live here. Okay. So, news. We'll get to Tom Izzo at 3 o'clock. I want to start out with the Mitch Lawrence stuff from SiriusXM on SVG's future. And seemingly a bit of a hostile takeover here. Stan Van Gundy expected to at least lose his role as team president in Detroit, if not also his coaching duties. That's for Mitch Lawrence. Arn Tellem waiting in the wings to take over the basketball operation. Tellem, one of all of pro sports' top agents for the better part of 25 years, has been Pistons VP and owner Tom Gores' right-hand man since 15. Speculation, Van Gundy will need to make the playoffs to keep his coaching job. Now, someone I just talked to, this is a lot deeper than just the Mitch Lawrence report. This is something where the person I spoke to believes Arn Tellem, in his words, has been poisoning the water for some time. Go ahead. Let Stan do the things he needs to do because he ain't making any good moves, and that'll open a window for me to take this thing over. You know, a couple of bad words here, a couple of comments on a deal there, knocking Stan around the building. Person I talked to believes absolutely. Arn Tellem didn't come here to be Tom Gores' gopher. What I am stunned about, honestly, is that this is coming out after the Blake Griffin deal. And if it plays out this way, I was absolutely wrong, and I have no problem saying it. I believed that if you were going to pull this deal, you had to give Stan next year because this is a long-term move. And by making this move, you had to assume Tellem and Gores are on board. Those are the only two guys that could tell Stan, hey, we're not going to pull this deal. But the deal went through. You guys know how I feel about the trade. To then turn around and let Stan go, it shows you what a circus this is. That's before we discuss whether Arn Tellem, who is as accomplished as any agent in the history of sports, is really fit to run an NBA franchise. We don't even have to get to that point yet. But I want your feedback on this. I think the report is interesting. The phone call I just had is interesting. And again, it just shows you the problems that exist here. If you're going to be a successful franchise, you can't have the owner's right-hand man not on the same page with the coach, allegedly, not on the same page with the president of basketball ops, and in essence, setting up his takeover. That's what it sounds like to me is happening. Now, I'll tell you this. If they take away Stan's title and they take away the basketball ops deal, I think he quits. I don't see a scenario where they publicly humiliate Stan Van Gundy, taking away his higher-ranking title, and then he will sit here as a dead man walking. Stan's going to know who plunged the knife in his back. He's not going to coach next season knowing the guy he's answering to is the guy that's about to put a bullet into him. So I do believe if Stan Van Gundy is stripped of his title, he will quit. The other thing you got to think about, too, hey, ask anybody in the league. It's not like Jeff Bower's not looking for a gig. You've seen reports out there, Bauer may be looking at Charlotte because they got rid of, I believe it's Rich Cho is his name. Their GM is gone. So if Stan is safe, why would Bauer be looking around? It's all coming together here, and it's stunning in the wake of this type of trade. I'm thrilled if this is the case that Stan won't be here to make the moves. The problem is I can't be excited that Arn Tellem will be the guy making them. At the time Tellem stepped down from being one of the most powerful agents on the planet, he had 42 or 43 NBA clients. You can fact check that. I'm 99% sure. But that doesn't mean you're ready to run a franchise. That doesn't mean that I want you running a franchise. For those of you that are going to call up and tell me, well, what? Maybe he can get players to come here. I don't buy that for a second. You don't have the cap room to do it. But, man, this thing has turned quickly. And Mitch Lawrence, SiriusXM, great stuff. Read that report. I made a couple of phone calls, it sure sounds like this thing's unraveling. And I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. Congratulations. I said it on the air yesterday. I thought you would win last night's game because the Bucks had a huge comeback the night before on a back-to-back. These are the only games you can win. Team, your last 6 victories are against teams on the road back-to-back. But again, report that Stan will lose his title at the end of the year, and in order to save his job as coach, he needs to make the playoffs. I'll tell you right now, I don't think Stan's going to sit here and be humiliated. He's got all the money he needs. He ain't going to sit here and lose his title and coach this team, which means Arn Tellem's going to take this thing over. Now, what that means, well, we could have a conversation about it. I don't know if any of you are awake today, but I think that's big news potentially coming out of your basketball franchise in this town. Yes, David?
Well, that's why it worries me, though, because clearly there was an inkling inside the organization. He made a Hail Mary trade here, and the team is still stuck. So he knew that it's a possibility that his job could be on the line. He made a deal, and they're stuck with all this money now. So it doesn't matter who takes over.
Right,
and
but that's that. And can I just say this, and then I'll totally back away. I apologize. That's why when they made this trade, I even said it a couple days ago. I said, geez, I'd be stunned if Stan was out.
Yeah.
Because you don't make this kind of move to then double back.
Right.
Because of the long-term ramifications on the health of the franchise. Continue.
Yes. But then I'm worried on the other side, and okay, will anything change if Tellem takes over? Because I still don't trust ownership that they know what they're doing when it comes to basketball decisions. So is this still a guy that's just going to have the ear and just still do whatever he wants to do? So I'm not confident in any move that this franchise makes, whether it's bringing in Tellem or getting rid of Stan Van. I don't trust this franchise right now to make any competent move.
248-539-9797. And again, I mean, I talked to one of my guys, covers the league, knows the league. The Arn Tellem stuff, it sure sounds like this is a lot further down the road. At first, I've heard of it, but it makes sense. Eventually, it makes sense. And if they didn't pull, how about, let me backtrack. Here's kind of how it would have made sense to me. If Stan Van Gundy were fired before the trade deadline, it wouldn't have shocked me at all if it played out this way. Okay? That's common sense. Arn Tellem isn't here to be Goris's buddy and be his right-hand man. He left being one of the most powerful agents in the league to eventually take over a franchise. Correct me if I'm wrong, Arn Tellem's the one who set up a bid to go and buy the Dodgers. But Arn Tellem's group was the group that got outbid by Magic. Double check that for me, please. So that would have made sense to me. Stan fired, Arn take over. Okay. But to make the Blake move, and then weeks later, you're still going to, in essence, fire Stan Van Gundy. When you demote someone and you know their personality is not going to be the type of person that can handle that or will abide that, their pride will not allow it, you're firing them. That's where it doesn't add up to me. Because if I'm Arn Tellem, I'm never bringing Blake in because it's going to make my job that much more difficult. I can tell you guys are fascinated. Up next, Roberto tells fart jokes. 248-539-9797. Wake up, people. Wake up. Your basketball franchise is on fire. We'll get to Izzo at 3 o'clock. Yes, I know the weather's bad. What do you want me to do? Talk about it? Not happening.